A deer's nose is extremely important to its survival. There's no doubt about that. But I contend that the effectiveness of a deer's nose is vastly overrated by hunters. I believe that a deer's eyes and its ears will catch you more often than its nose. Let's take a look at my opening day 1989 deer hunting situation. In fact, I'm going to draw it here for you. Now, here's the field we were hunting. It was about a 5-acre field surrounded by woods. Now, there's a big swamp over here, and the deer tended to come in from the west. John Ford and I, with the camera, were set in a pine tree about right here towards the east end, and this was on the north. Now, the wind was also blowing from the north, but it was about 125 yards to the south end. There were some big pine trees over here. And at daylight, I went to the south end, and about right there, deposited 2 quarts of urine. Now, this was human urine, proven to be as effective a deer attractor as any so-called deer urine scent on the market. Most of them, I found out recently, are either synthetic urine or cow urine. Very little actual deer urine is sold, even though it's all advertised or implied that it's deer urine. Your own is a heck of a lot cheaper. Actually, urine isn't really good at attracting deer, but under the right circumstances, it will hold a buck momentarily if it stumbles across it. Now, this is the problem with scents. Deer usually have to stumble across them because of the wind. Now, if the wind is blowing from the north, how will a deer coming from the west or the east be able to smell it, even if it's extremely powerful? The answer is, it can't. But to know what you're doing with scents or where your scent is going, you need to know the wind direction. Now, hunters use many techniques to test the wind. Threads tied to tree limbs, baby powder puffed from a bottle, and this one, a feathered invention you can clip on a branch.
To determine the wind direction, of course, you can feel it blowing towards you. Here's a little device a guy made called a game vane. Now, it just spins around here on this pin. It's a feather. It's very lightweight on an alligator clip. If you just hold it out, if I hold it out here I can see which way the wind is blowing. It's sort of coming from the northwest right now. Sometimes if you clip it up next to a tree, well, yeah, the wind is blowing along here in a pretty good clip. I don't know, maybe 5, 10 miles an hour out in the open. But this gives you an idea of where your scent is blowing. And I'm going to clip it underneath the tree. You got to remember, wind swirls around a little different underneath the tree, but I'll clip it right here. There we go.
There was a problem with that vane located there. It showed the wind is blowing across in front of us or even towards us. That's because a big tree creates a low pressure area when the wind blows over it or around it, causing swirls behind it. That's what gave us the false reading that the game vane was pointing back at us. To be accurate, it really needed to be set away from those big boughs.
Got an idea to try something to see if we can actually see where our scent is blowing. Well, these little smoke bombs you can buy, sort of phony firecrackers. I'm going to put that right in the branch right there. We'll see where this smoke goes. This will tell us where our scent is going. Okay, there's the green smoke. Look how it's going up. Well, that's good to know. Look at that, John. It's actually blowing up, and it's getting out there, and look how far it's spreading and dissipating, so the smoke actually disappears. Well, that's good. You get little swirls in the wind. But that's where our scent is going then. It's not going so far south, it's going over that way.
Well, let's light another smoke bomb. This time, John Ford will tape it from the side. You can see that the wind is pulling the smoke from under the limbs out into the field from the north to the south. And the stiff breeze breaks up the smoke quickly, the same way it breaks up our scent. The smoke shows us exactly where our scent is going and how it's dispersing. It breaks apart and dissipates, which means that a deer on the other side of the field couldn't capture enough of our scent 125 yards away to identify us. And here's proof.
Here he comes. Must be a doe. Small buck. It was a buck? No. Very small. Kidding me. Little spikes. I sure don't see him. Oh, little teeny buttons.
Very small, little nubs.
The deer continued to come into this field, sometimes 6 or 7 at once, all from the west, moving along the south side of the field. Now, the wind was blowing past us to the deer. They'd walk into our scent line, but it was doubtful they smelled us. The wind was knocking our scent apart. With all of our moving around, though, between me and the video camera repositioning, they'd spot us from time to time, stare at us, stomp a little, and then trot off.
Well, here we are about 4:30. We're just about out of light for the camera. The deer are still moving in. I am just curious to see how the wind carries smoke right now, which would simulate our scent. So we'll see with this smoke bomb. What's the deal? It's blowing back our way. Look how high it's going. Look at that. Well, it's blowing off a little more to the southwest than it was. Now that smoke goes down. Huh. Interesting. Well, it spreads out there and it's angling more that direction.
Now, that direction the wind was blowing, that's the direction the deer were, if you'll remember. They were walking along the south side of this open field in front of these pines. Now, the next day, the wind was still blowing from the north, but we set our blind in the southwest corner, right here, under another pine tree. Now, our scent would be carried to the south, we figured, and wouldn't spook many deer, if any. Now, my son Zach was hunting on the north side of the field, right about here, in a canvas blind, and the deer liked to come out the corner between our blinds right here, and they frequently did. We had a number of does and fawns come out there, feed between us, never once scenting Zach or spooking because of him. He was totally hidden, but John and I were a little more out in the open, and I did such things as, change my socks when the deer were in front of us, and this moving around, not our scent, caught the attention of the deer. They'd see motion, I'm sure they'd occasionally hear us, then they'd trot off, but it was not our scent.
The wind is basically blowing from the north to the south, although at the end of this field with these trees here creating different low pressure areas, it swirls all around. I'm going to try one of our smoke bombs here to see what it's like out on the edge of the field. Now, this is yellow smoke. Oh, look. It's blowing to the northwest. Now, that's unusual. Now it's swirling around. Now it's blowing to the south. Now back to the northwest. Well, that's what's happening with our scent. Now it's blowing towards us here, towards the west. Huh, interesting. Well, now let's try one in the tree, because this is where our scent is. Let's see where it goes. There we go. Huh. Oh, it's coming right at us. That's interesting. It's blowing to the west and to the north. Now back to... Well, this does give us an idea of where our scent is blowing. In other words, all over, which means it's going to dissipate fairly quickly, and it's not going to reach out very far. I think a deer can come relatively close to us and is not going to get our wind. Might pick up a bit of sulfur odor, though.
A deer's nose is good, like I said at the beginning, but it has its limitations. In order for the deer to smell you, it has to be close, usually within 50, no more than 100 yards, and very important, it has to be downwind. The same principle applies to commercial hunting scents. If the deer doesn't approach from downwind and isn't close, it'll never smell the scent, no matter how powerful it is. Scent doesn't go all over the woods. It goes where the wind carries it. The farther it blows, the more it dissipates until it's so weak the deer can't identify it. Use the wind to your advantage to carry your scent away. That's the best way you as a hunter can fool a deer's nose.